Good afternoon. How are you this beautiful Friday afternoon? My name's Christine and I am delighted to welcome you to this Google Digital Garage training session on Safety First, Protect Yourself Online in partnership with Wix. Okay, so as I say, I'm Christine and I'm one of the trainers here on Google's free skills training program, the Google Digital Garage. I'm a marketeer by trade. I've been involved in marketing since, well, before digital was even a thing. I've been around and around about the marketing world and working with big companies, small companies, entrepreneurs, startups. And in that time, I guess, there's also been a lot of changes in the digital world. And it's that idea of, as new opportunities come around based on, the different technologies that are available, the different tools and channels we can get to use, then being able to keep safe with all the new opportunities is really, really important. And I know we do speak to quite a few people through the Google Digital Garage who really want to take more advantage, but maybe need a little bit of confidence around making sure that everything's secure and safe, which is absolutely a great way to be. So alongside me today, to help hopefully build that confidence for you, is our wonderful moderator, Sarah. Now, Sarah is an incredibly experienced member of our team. She's been involved in Google Digital Garage for a number of years now, and she's going to be interacting with you in the chat. She's going to be answering questions from you as we go through. She'll be dropping you in some useful links. She'll be possibly even posing some questions of her own. So I really do hope that you will get involved today. To do so, the best way to get involved is to join us through the chat. Now, if you are browsing signed into your YouTube at the moment, you'll be able to see Sarah's already in the chat. She's got a little blue spanner next to her name that shows that she's the moderator and she's the one in charge. If you can't see that chat, or you can't see where you can put your own comments in, then pop up to the top right-hand side and sign up or sign into YouTube. Once you're browsing in your YouTube account, you get the opportunity to join in with that chat. So we really hope you do. Little bit of other housekeeping, as Sarah, I can see, has already said it in the chat, but if there's any trouble viewing anything, try refreshing your page. A little bit of turn it off and turn it on works wonders across the internet, we find. I'm going to pause throughout the session. So as you send your questions and comments, we love comments as well. Sarah's going to feed those over to me. We'll pause and we'll take some questions, and some of those questions that Sarah thinks are really interesting for everybody to hear. Sometimes she sends me questions as well. If there's something I haven't quite explained clearly enough, I'll need to go into a bit more depth in, she's going to send me those over. We'll pause as we go through and we'll answer those questions live on air this afternoon. So do feel free to get those questions in and comments into us. Now, so you do know, we're running this Google Digital Garage virtual training, excuse me, as part of our broader offering of courses. So if you'd like to find out more, check out our schedule of upcoming webinars. See the information on that in the description below. Now, there's going to be a lot of information coming at you quite quickly this afternoon, hopefully. Excuse me. So best thing to do is have a cup of tea and a pen and a paper. 3 essential ingredients for this session. Jot down as we go, make your notes. I find that helps to lodge them in my brain anyway. But if there's anything and you think, aha, that's it, that's the thing I'm really interested in, that's the thing I want to go back and revise, we'll keep this webinar live for you for about the next 24 hours. We'll turn it off at about lunchtime tomorrow. So use the link that you used to get here this afternoon, click on it again, and this webinar will stay live. My top tip actually is to jot down the time code. So if at 32 minutes in, there's something that you think, that's what I need to know, jot down 32 minutes. It'll help you to find the right place on the stream when you come back to watching it. Okay, I think that's pretty much the housekeeping done. Sarah will remind me if there's anything I haven't told you. She's very good at keeping me right. So yeah, let's get started on Safety First, Protect Yourself Online. So Next thing to talk about is our partnership. So the session is called Protect Yourself Online with Which. So it's a Google Digital Garage training session, but in terms of making sure that we are bringing you the absolute most up-to-date, strongest information we can, we've partnered with Which. So Google's deep understanding of the technology plus Which's expertise and focus on making things easy for customers to understand, made the two organisations natural partners, really, to create and deliver this course. Which are the largest independent consumer organisation in the UK. Depending on how old you were, I remember when I was growing up, no matter what my parents were going to buy, big purchases, they'd get the Which guide on them, because it would rate and review way before the internet, Which have been championing the consumer. They've got a hugely impressive long history of providing help and advice on the issues that matter most to people. So today, we're going to work together to educate you about web safety. So the point is you can feel confident about going online whilst staying safe and secure. So do head over to Which if you want to. I think we'll recommend a couple of resources from Which as we go through. They are a fantastic place to go for the up-to-the-minute advice on any kind of consumer matters, really. Okay, so what we're going to take a look at today for you, we've broken it down into 3 sections. Those of you who've spent time on our Google Digital Garage before will realise that that's kind of how we run our sessions. So by the end of this session, I want you to be able to identify common threats. I want you to be able to think about how you can stay safe online. I want you to be able to feel confident and empowered, really, is what I want from it. So we'll talk about ways to be safer. We'll look at some of those common threats and ways to deal with them. And finally, we'll take a bit of, scamming does happen. And the main thing to remember is not to panic. I'm going to give you some top tips that will help you to work through what to do if at any point anything doesn't go quite right. Okay, so why not? When it says where are you logging in from, this is an internet safety session, so please don't give me your exact an exact answer. That would be a testing question, wouldn't it? So whereabouts in the world are you today? Basically, what we're trying to do here is get people comfortable with the chat functionality, get them letting Sarah know a little bit about you, what your name is, whereabouts in the world, and maybe why you joined us today. Because actually the beauty of digital tools is we have the power with these digital tools to unite people from across the globe. I know on with us today, let's see, we've got Kyle joining us from the Philippines, which is amazing that I'm reaching out today across the world through the magic of the internet. Such huge opportunities. Let Sarah know whereabouts you are, and she'll let me know where you are, and then we'll be able to just show how the huge reach and power of the internet. But because of the reach and power and positive things on the internet, unfortunately, there is also a downside, or can be a potential downside. Okay, so unfortunately, and these stats were actually for 2 years ago now, I think. No, they've been updated to 20. Yeah, this was 2020. So 132 billion pounds was stolen by hackers. When COVID hit, and then if you think about some of the scams that have, I think we're trying to get here is actually, so millions of scams are blocked every day, and the scammers aren't daft. So when COVID hit, they started to use what was going on in the news as an in to try and scam people. Okay. When Netflix and Disney Plus, lots of people at the beginning of the pandemic were spending more time at home. So they were taking out Netflix subscriptions. Disney Plus was free for a while, I think. So anybody without a subscription could watch, because they realized people were staying at home. And unfortunately, that led to people go, oh, I know, I can see what's going on. We are going to set up scam pages to try and get people's details. So it's really unfortunate, but just where something good happens, somewhere somebody will try and profit from a criminal point of view from it. What I will say to that is, yes, the stats themselves can feel really scary. But, we used to have highway robbers when we used to drive around in our carriages up and down the routes on our horse and carriages. There'd be highway robbers. I remember growing up when there again, parents paying by credit card at restaurants and things, and they would say, whatever you do, make sure the credit card machine that chunks back and forward, make sure they do it at the table, because if somebody takes your credit card away, they could put 2 of the slips underneath and clunk, clunk. Those of you who are old enough to know what I mean, remember that kind of physical nature of that's why credit cards had raised numbers on them. They had, and people there was a scam then when people would take your credit card details and do 2 copies of the little carbonated paper credit card receipts. Scams have been around as long as commerce has. All right. Whilst people have something of value, somebody else will want to get that from them. And it's a sad fact of the world we live in. So, yes, it is important to be aware, but just as we would protect ourselves by keeping our credit cards, making sure people didn't take our credit cards away from the table to do them, just as now, when we're paying by contactless, it's good form to read the number on the card as it's being tapped. Just as when you go out and about in the street, you shouldn't wear flashy watches or wave your cash around in the air. In society, it would be great if there weren't criminals looking to profit off people. But as we know there are, the best things to do is to take appropriate responses to make to any threats that we can perceive in order that we keep ourselves safe. And that's all today's session is really about. This is what some potential threats are. This is how we're going to look to protect ourselves, okay? So, in terms of cybercrime and common misconceptions, let's have a think. Here we go. Let's start in the top left-hand corner. I don't have anything worth stealing. People quite often think that. Okay, and pop in if there's anything else that you want to think of. I don't have anything worth stealing. Even if I don't have tons of cash in the bank, or I don't have a business, or I don't run any e-commerce myself, your identity alone is worth money. Identity fraud is unfortunately a real thing. So making sure we're being careful, and it's the same as, not putting any identifiable ideas, not putting your credit card receipts, shredding them before you put them in the bin and that sort of thing. Or, your identity is a thing that's worth money. People could take out credit or loans or what have you. So making sure that you are careful with your own identity, your date of birth, your name, your full address, all of those things, because your identity itself is worth stealing. Sometimes people think it's just the big businesses that will be attacked. Actually, it's kind of the opposite of true. The UK has a lot of small businesses, and if you think of them as a group, they probably have less they have a lot of revenue in them, a lot of spend, a lot of money around, but they probably have less to spend on cyber protections. Maybe they're running old systems. Maybe they don't have somebody keeping them up to date with their cyber security. So actually, I think sometimes for the scammers, the big businesses, yes, they will be attacked, but they've got people in place to, protect them. And that's what we want. We want the small businesses protecting themselves as well. According to the Institute of Directors, the UK's 5.5 million small businesses are collectively attacked more than 7 million times a year. So statistically, each business is going to be attacked or a try attack on it at least every year. Now, another kind of misconception they have, fast, free public Wi-Fi, fantastic. I don't need to use up data. I don't need to use up my minutes or what have you. I don't need to use up my data plan. However, free public Wi-Fi is not a safe space. even if it's password protected, we'll talk about this and we'll talk about some of the ways that you can go on. But all the password means is, the password, it will make people feel it's safer, but actually all the password does is control the number of people getting onto that Wi-Fi network in order to not clog it up too much for the speed. It doesn't make you any safer. You don't know what information the connection is collecting. We'll talk about these things as we go through. So don't worry, we are going to, it feels like we're trying to frighten you at the beginning. It's not that case. We're just trying to unpick some of those things that people do think. Sometimes people think both of these: my smartphone isn't vulnerable to cybercrime, and that devices can't get viruses. And they kind of go over the same things, but all smartphones can be vulnerable to cybercrime or viruses, basically, because most devices, like iOS, the Apple system, is a closed environment. Something like Android has app stores and things where you should get official apps, and they should be a bit more protected. You are a bit more protected rather than the wilds of the whole internet, but it pays to be careful. There are things you can do to help yourself protected, and we'll talk about those. So it might be that you can install an untrusted app and get a virus, or you click on a link in a malicious or an infected website. It is possible still for both your smartphone and your devices to get viruses, to be vulnerable to cybercrime. So it is absolutely worth taking some of the precautions that we're going to take as we go through. But from the good point of view, lots of people sometimes think that just opening spam can give you a virus. All right. Now, most of the email providers are, just like we saw on that, the Google filtering out millions of spam messages a day. Most email service providers are doing a really good job of filtering unwanted messages into spam, but they sometimes do slip through. And we'll talk about what to do. Normally, you're fine if you just delete it. Even if you've opened it, delete it, remove the message. Just opening the message itself isn't likely to install a virus, okay? Opening attachments and clicking on links, that's another story. But for just opening it itself, don't worry, you're going to be fine. All right, so we've come into our first little mini section. And I can see that we've got Fadi joining us from Germany and Henry joining us from Bangladesh. So we are truly a global group this afternoon. What a fantastic pleasure, actually, to be working with you. Quick pause for questions. I can see no questions as yet. I can, however, that credit card restaurant scam happened to Sarah. So that's it. And if somebody as awesome as Sarah can be caught out, I tell you, anyone can. All right, then, let's have a look at ways we can be safer online. Now we've scared you a little bit, which I hope that wasn't the intent, but that's sometimes how people can feel. Let's have a look at we'll look for some best practice tips, I guess. Things that you can incorporate into your everyday to keep yourself safe online. We'll cover these one by one as we go through, but we're going to look at how to protect devices, what to do about public Wi-Fi when you're out and about, how to keep yourself as safe as possible, how to shop online safely, looking at some of your security settings, and then also we'll take a look at those wonderful passwords, thinking about extra layers of security that are going to help you protect yourself. So first up, let's think about devices. Now, these wonderful things that we carry around with us are amazing. They genuinely have changed most of our lives. They've changed our behaviors, carrying around everything in our pocket. Your bank account details are here, your phone numbers and all sorts, and everything is in here. Which means you need to be as careful with your device, your phone, your iPad, your laptop, whatever it is. You need to be as careful with your device as you would be with your wallet, as you would be with your passport. Okay, because they are just as valuable to it. In fact, if anything, because mine is my phone numbers. I only know 3 phone numbers off by heart anymore. And they're the ones that just haven't changed since I was a kid. Our brains don't need to remember these things anymore. So we have given all of that over to our devices. Top tip number one might be to have a backup somewhere of your phone numbers, I guess. So in terms of protecting your device, first things first is to keep your software up to date. All right, so anytime there's an update to your software, it's normally because there is an updated threat, and the software companies are working all the time to counteract new threats as they come up. So make sure you keep all your software up to date for that. It'll apply patches, it'll keep everything running along nicely. There's a thing called a screen lock, so make sure you do leave your screen. If you're going to leave it for any length of time, you lock that screen. And remotely lock down your phone if you lose it, okay? So the next thing we're going to think about is public Wi-Fi. Public Wi-Fi is so useful. It really is great, but has a flip side. It might potentially leave you open to security risks because you do not know who owns the network and what hoops they are pushing your data through before it gets to the wider internet. You don't know really what they're collecting on you. So it's really important that you think about public Wi-Fi. Now, here's the thing. Rather than me talk to you and take you through devices, what might be a great idea is if I just share this video with you and I let this video keep you up to date with the security side of things, shall we? So let me work out now. I need you to cross your fingers that this is going to work for me, because as any time with things tech, you do need to check. So let's have a look. Oh, is it playing? Let's give it another go.
Very often, we access our email services or social network accounts on the go. On mobile devices, all services that you use are accessible through apps, and therefore only one tap away without having to log in every time. That's why it is important to learn how to keep these devices protected. Locking your device helps you in case you leave it behind or if you're worried about someone else scrolling through your phone. Most mobile devices offer options to create a PIN or a pattern. If you prefer a PIN, it's a good idea not to use consecutive series such as 1, 2, 3, 4, or personal information such as your birthday or address. The same principle applies to patterns. Try not to use patterns that are easy to guess, like geometric figures. Some devices also give you the option to hide your pattern when you draw it so that it becomes invisible. It's good to be cautious about the apps, games, and videos and attachments you download because they could harm your devices and put your personal information at risk. Beware of anything that claims that your phone is infected or asks for your password or personal information. You could accidentally download unwanted or potentially harmful applications or give someone you don't trust access to your account. To prevent this, a good rule of thumb is to always download apps from reputable sources, like the official App Store on your phone. It's also important to read the reviews and comments from other users and look for potential safety problems with the app. This can help you decide if it's secure to download the content. Once in a while, you might also receive notifications to download system updates on your mobile. It's important to keep all your devices up to date since new versions can help fix security problems identified in previous versions. Finally, always remember to be extra careful whenever you go online using a network you do not know or trust, such as when using free Wi-Fi at a local cafe, because it could be easily intercepted. When on public networks, avoid signing into your accounts or making purchases, since your passwords and financial information could be compromised. Now you know the importance of screen locks, safe downloads, system updates, and Wi-Fi networks. Decide what safety settings are right for you and set boundaries around how much information you share, when and where while using mobile devices.
Okay, fantastic. That looks like it worked, which is very good. I always do like it when the tech works. I think for me, the key there is being really aware of, especially if you're out and about, what you're downloading to your phone. and shopping and things, you know, making sure you go off the public network before you shop. Okay, so hope you've got a lock set. If not, jot that down as something that you'd want to do as well. So let's take a look. Public Wi-Fi, we've started to touch on it a little bit. But in terms of common mistakes people use on that public Wi-Fi that we don't know for sure that it's secure, some people might decide that they're going to do their online banking. Now, that's not a great idea, because although your bank uses encryption to keep your details safe, the Wi-Fi slot itself might not be encrypted. So if the network isn't secure, there's an increased chance a hacker could eavesdrop on the data that your device is transmitting and receiving. They might be recording login details or other sensitive information. So for greater security, try to use your home or your workplace Wi-Fi to do your online banking, or to make any financial transactions or otherwise anything sensitive where there's a lot of personal data going across. If you really do have to do a little bit of banking on the move, try and turn off the Wi-Fi and do it via the network wherever you can. Make sure that the bank's web address is the actual bank's web address as well, if you're actually signing into it rather than using the app. So if you click on a page that has HTTPS, that means that it's being securely transmitted. Now, it doesn't mean that it's not a safety forever, because all the HTTPS means is it's being securely transmitted. It doesn't tell you who it's being securely transmitted to. So although it is something to like, I would never put in financial information on an HTTP without the S website. But anything without that S, your connection is not secure at all. All right. Now, some things people do is think that, well, Wi-Fi must be quicker than 3G or 4G or even 5G now. Public Wi-Fi is really enticing because it promises that Wi-Fi is normally quicker than using the network. Definitely cheaper if you pay for your data on the go. But actually, it might be a weak connection. You might be quite away from the router, or there might be tons of people all going on the network at the same time. If you're in a cafe and there's 30 people all using it, it's going to be potentially quite slow. Lots of people competing for that bandwidth. And if it was a weak signal to start, you actually might find that your phone's data connection can offer faster speeds than public Wi-Fi networks. So don't always think about it, but do, of course, counteract that with your data limits. If you're streaming on the go, you might soon find that actually you run through your data quite quickly. Some phone manufacturers, some phone handsets will actually let you detect the fastest, and it will automatically switch to the fastest. So check out your phone's Wi-Fi settings to see if that's the case. Okay, next mistake people sometimes make is not securing their device. So any security weaknesses on your device will make you more vulnerable. So, you know, failing to put in a firewall can be a mistake because it helps defend your machine. Make sure that you apply any updates to the device, and make sure that you are keeping up to date with your updates and also using those screen locks and things. Enable firewalls. You can put in a firewall via your control panel, which is going to make sure that it limits the access of other people to your PC over the network. It'll turn off, that option for people being able to get into your computer. Macs get viruses too, so make sure you've got a virus protection on. We'll talk about that as we go a little way through. So antivirus security programs are really, really important. So on public Wi-Fi, people sometimes do too much. Just because it's a free open network, we might as well do some downloading, do some uploading, do this, do that, do that. Open networks, no logins, no having to pay for the data that I'm using, can be risky to use. So even if it's a legitimate hotspot, other people might be intercepting in it. Even if it's got a password, all that means is that there are fewer people on it because you have to ask the staff for the password, not that it's going to be genuinely secure. Instead, as I say, avoid free networks where you can. And if you are going to use them, you might want to be thinking about a VPN, a virtual private network. And there again, we'll talk about that in a minute or two as well. So be very careful installing any software or doing your updates when you're on a public Wi-Fi network. Can potentially expose you to malware being downloaded at the same time. Be especially wary if you sign on to public Wi-Fi and then you get any kind of notification asking you to download something. That's a favorite trick of people with a malicious hotspot, is to try and trick you into downloading something. And I say, they might say, oh, you need an update. Any kind of downloading of anything, make sure you're doing it off that network as far as possible. Okay, so let's move on to shopping safely, all right? Buying things online, you probably know this already, but it's quick, it's easy, and you can get access to a huge range of products. It's really tempting. It's really enticing to buy online, and I'm all for it, especially after the last couple of years that we've had. But there is a risk of your personal or your financial details being stolen. So there are some easy ways to stay safe while you're shopping online. First of all, checking out the retailer is legitimate. Check out the reviews, as we said with the App Store. Check out reviews, see what other people are saying. Make sure you're on the genuine link. Look at their refund policies, their return policies. Make sure that they've got contact details, and use, if you're going to buy online, try and use a credit card instead of a debit card, because you get a bit more consumer protection, but also PayPal or Klarna, anything that offers consumer protection against fraud. If you're shopping on mobile, you might find it safer to use apps that belong to reputable retailers, because hackers are less likely to focus their efforts on individual apps. They're much more likely to go for broad brush, big old websites. So have a think about your online shopping. Do you shop online? Where would you shop online? What else do you consider? Do you consider safety aspects? How would you know if a site was safe to use? Let Sarah know how you go about it, but a few simple rules, I guess, for safety. Using familiar websites, using verified websites is really important. When I'm browsing with Google, I can see that the connection is secure by looking for that padlock. As I look in my search results, I'm always looking for the green shield with a tick in it next to websites. If anything comes up and it looks like it's not secure, then I wouldn't click on that particular website. Making sure that padlock and HTTPS are on the sites. But remember, all that means is that the website is securely encrypted between you and where you're going. It's not saying it's not necessarily encrypted between you and the baddies, all right? Check the privacy policies, mentioned that already, but check out privacy policies. Are they going to sell your data on? That's not scamming, that's selling on data. So make sure that you're checking out where your data goes. And do try and avoid storing your card details. Quite often, especially on less well-known, they try and make it as easy as possible for you to check out by offering to store your credit card details. Well, I don't want my credit card details being stored anywhere else, thank you very much. So I would avoid that. And I'd avoid making bank transfers to people you don't know as well when it's looking for paying. Use secure payment methods, PayPal, Klarna, and then there's big retail payment houses, your Sage Pays, your Stripes. You look for the big names that you know are going to securely look after your credit card details. So next thing to take a look at, we're familiar with passwords, but let's have a look at some of the other ways. Do you ever use one password for multiple accounts, for example? Periodically, and maybe as a prompt from today, what I'd like you to do is to bob over and check your privacy settings and your security settings. Do a little audit. Look at your device privacy settings. Look at your social media channels. Each, especially the social media channels, do update their privacy policies from time to time. And you might find yourself sharing extra information that you didn't know about. So make sure you set really quite strict privacy rules on your social media. Be really careful. Think twice before sharing details like your full date of birth. because you share full date of birth to the whole world. Well, it makes that identity theft a lot easier to do. So yeah, make sure that you are checking out, as I say, your devices and your social media sites. And I would make that little audit something that you do every couple of months. Set yourself a recurring reminder just to make sure you do that. And we've mentioned apps a couple of times, but do be careful with those apps that you choose to download. Be careful with where you're downloading them from. I would only ever download an app either from Google's Play Store if you're on Android, or the Apple's App Store if you're on Apple devices. Don't go downloading apps from other places, because both the Play Store and the App Store have really strict approval processes for getting the apps listed. It means you're less likely to download a dangerous app that hasn't been approved. Make sure you read the reviews, as we said. Check the permissions. Sometimes an app will try and download and it says, this app needs permission to access your camera or your contact details or this or that. Any app that, okay, location details, my mapping app needs to know where I am. I need to give it permission. But any other app that wants location details, I'm like, well, why do you want that? I don't want to share my location. I don't want to share my microphone. I don't want to share my photos or my files or anything else. And if I go to download an app that looks useful and looks helpful and has good reviews, but it's asking for too much in the way of access to my phone, I absolutely won't let it do that. To the point where it will then say, oh, it won't work without it. I'm like, well, why won't this app work without access to my location? I'm not into that, and I won't be downloading it. Thank you very much. So, that was a bit ranty, wasn't it? I get very cross with apps or anything that asks for data that it doesn't strictly need. Off you pop, we're not having that. All right. So make sure you're very careful with the apps that you are downloading. And also make sure once they're downloaded, you keep them updated. And if you don't use an app for a while, delete it. Get rid of it if you don't need it. Because old unused apps could become a way in that was safe and secure at the beginning when you downloaded them. An old app could become a way into your phone. So that's worth keeping an eye on as well. In fact, I've got, we'll talk about protection and things. My antivirus software will tell me periodically if I've had an app that I haven't used in 90 days or something, and gives me the choice, prompts me to delete it if necessary. All right then, passwords. So we're all familiar with passwords. They are an ever-present feature of our lives, it feels. But lots of people use either a very simple password that would be easy to guess, your pet's first name or something, or we use one password for multiple accounts. And both of those things are really quite not what we could call best practice, I guess. All right, so we're going to cover 3 areas. We've got strong passwords, we've got password software, and then we've got multiple factor authentication that we're going to take a look at. First of all, strong passwords. All right. Strong passwords, people have said, this idea of adding letters, adding a number and an uppercase and a lowercase and a symbol, that was what we were taught, I guess, was used for strong passwords. In actual fact, what most people then did was they'd swap the letter I for a number 1, or they'd use an @ symbol instead of a letter A. So it actually made those short passwords still quite easy to break if you were, just using your first pet, but having the number 1 instead of the I in the name isn't going to make it that much more secure. So the best way to be as secure as possible is to use a longer password. Then you'll mix in the letters and symbols as well, the numbers and symbols as well, though. And a great way to, if you find trouble remembering them, 3 random words is really good. But random is really hard for us human brains to remember. And the best advice I ever heard was from one of the other Google Digital Garage trainers, actually. And he said, if you do forget your passwords and, if there's somewhere where you sit when you're doing the internet, or there's something, then from where I sit, I can see plant, light switch, window. Okay, plant, light switch, window is a really long password. I can see those in those order around the room. Nobody else can see those things. And there's lots of things in my room like really a lot of things. I've just moved house, there's a lot of boxes. That, you can then think of, okay, I'm going to help me remember, I'm going to root myself in my place and then see what's going on around me, right? Related words make it easier to crack your password. Completely random make it a lot harder. Mix in a couple of letters, a couple of numbers, mix in a symbol or two, and it's going to therefore meet most security requirements of most password websites. Will say 8 characters, uppercase, lowercase, number, symbol. You've had to have all those things. Okay, great way. Yeah, so 3 random words is a really good way to create stronger passwords. All righty. If you struggle, which a lot of us do, then having a password manager as a tool can really help. So within my Google Chrome account, my Google account, I have a password manager. The Google Password Manager and I can save my passwords as I browse the internet. It will save my passwords for me. There's things called LastPass. There's various different password managers. You choose one that you feel comfortable and secure with. Read the reviews, make sure. All you have to do is make sure you then remember one password, and it automatically, you can even get them to automatically generate really long, really strong passwords for you. Then you don't even have to think them up. And every time you go to the website, you choose that you want to do the password, you want to remember it, and it's going to add it in for you. Okay. They can also, something that's really handy nowadays is I can set it up on my phone, and it will work across all my devices, so long as I'm browsing and signed into the password manager. So therefore, that's something that can really help us to not forget passwords as well. But as I say, you're going to have to remember that one password, else all is lost. So here we are. This is it, the Google Password Manager. If you head to passwords.google.com, it's going to help manage your passwords for you. The thing I love most about it is it does do that job of suggesting those passwords. So that's if you're running Chrome and you're signed into your Google accounts. That is going to help you, and you're going to need your sync turned on in Chrome, so it will synchronize your passwords across your multiple devices. Okay, the other thing to think about is two-step verification, or two-factor authentication, as it's also known. And it's to add an extra layer of security to your account. Remember that Google account that I want to be signed into? And even if I need a second method to make sure that, especially if my passwords are all living in there, that it makes it as hard as possible for somebody to break into it. So lots of websites now allow you to use two-factor authentication. So you sign in with your password, and then it pings you a notification, or it pings your text message, or it gives you a code that you then have to verify that you are who you say you are and you do have your device. Which have some great advice about setting that up. And it really is a good idea to use two-factor authentication for any of the sites, especially if you're going to be using secure details, and things like your bank may well insist you use it anyway. And then I've already mentioned antivirus. All right, so mentioned it briefly. I have antivirus on every single device I own. So it's not just computers and laptops, iPhones, Android phones, tablets. That was the word I was searching for. It's really important to protect the information on your phones and your tablets as well as on your laptops and things. We're not going to try and keep up here with which is the best antivirus, because the antivirus are updating all the time. So the best thing to do, I would always head over to the Which Guide and look for those best buys. You can even do it for free with one of the most of the antivirus have a free version and a paid version. And actually, they both normally work to block the viruses, to block the malware, and to protect your PCs, your Macs, your tablets, your phones. Check out the Which Best Buys. Look at the Which guidance that's kept up to date, which is why we love it. Quite often, the paid versions, actually, check what you're paying for. Often you're paying for things like support if something does go wrong, or having telephone support rather than just help pages. So you're not necessarily getting a better antivirus protection. It might be that it also it can run other levels of checks. Mine auto scans my device every so often for viruses and things. So it's worth looking at the different paid and free versions and make sure you only pay for a feature that you actually want or need. All right. So antivirus software is probably one of the most important things you can do. And the great thing about the antivirus that I use, so I'm sure it's quite a lot as well, it comes with a VPN. So I can choose when I'm out and about, if I'm browsing on a public network, one of those free Wi-Fi sites, I can actually turn the VPN on, which encrypts things going from my device. So I'm not relying on the Wi-Fi security. I've actually got my virtual private network going on for me, which does help to block out quite a few of those risks as well. All right, I'm just going to check in on questions. I'm quite... I can see that we have had a couple of questions, but I can also see that they're being answered as we go. There's a lot of content still to get through. So what I'm going to do, this is quite a fast-paced session today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold off any questions. And at the end, if we've got time, we'll come and take a little bit of a look at those. So let's look at some common threats, all right? So the first threat we're going to look at is malware, all right? So malware is malicious, which is where the mal comes from, software. Also known as ransomware, Trojans. There's lots of different names for the same sort of thing. Basically, malware is where somebody is trying to get you to download malicious software or trying to get malicious software with a bad intent on your device. So malware is used to try and steal your personal details or harm your computer. Computer viruses are malicious software programs, okay? That when they execute, they replicate across other computer programs, they insert their own code. You can get malware by opening up attachments, clicking on links, downloading something, spoofed emails, that sort of thing. You can get them from online ads, which is why lots of people now have pop-up blockers and things. So downloading things on an unsecure connection or from a malicious site. It's why if you're running antivirus software, it will scan any downloads before they're downloaded. It's that sort of protection that you're looking for. Okay, so how can we get them? Here's an attachment scam. All right, this might be really titchy tiny on your device. I'm sorry if that's the case, but basically what this is trying to do is it is trying to trick you into opening an attachment. All right, if the things that you can look at, warning messages in your things going in directly into spam, you know, definitely don't click on those. But this, you'll quite often get warning. Be careful with this message. It might contain virus or malicious link. And it will force you. It's saying here there's this attachment contains a blocked file. Downloading the attachment is disabled. You can then force it to open if you wanted to, but I wouldn't really do it. Here we've got files that end .zip. A zip file is a zipped up file with lots of attachments in it. So it looks like just one file, but you're actually downloading lots. Other things that I am always wary about, especially if I'm not expecting them, are execute files, exes. Anything that's an execute file wants to run a program. Well, why is somebody sending me a program to run? It won't shout, oh, I'm a malicious piece, but that exe file means that they're trying to. How people tend to try and get you to open up and click on things that you wouldn't normally. They either try and scare you or trick you into being excited about something and try and grab you when you're not thinking about it, really. So something scary, oh, there's been a big problem, click this link to find out, or something along the lines of, this is amazing, you have won. I've won a competition I never entered. How fantastic. They're trying to work on your greed or your fear, try and drive some emotion to try and get you to do it. We see less of these nowadays because lots of people have pop-up blockers going on. But basically, this is designed to look like, it pops up and it's designed to look like the actual real Microsoft site. And it uses the right fonts, it uses all these, you know, if you call this number, you're going to be put through to a scammer. If you click on this link, it's going to put you through to the scammer. Try it quite often, it'll be X out. I would be running my software. The pop-ups are designed to either scare you and tell you something's very wrong, like in this case, or tell you you've won a prize. It's not real. They really don't click on the pop-up. There should be a close button, but they quite often make it hard to close. Or down at the bottom, you should be able to close it from the programs and then run your security software. Please, please, please don't call the phone number, because that support number will put you directly through to those scammers who want to once they've got you on the phone, they will scare you some more. They'll try and get your details off you and things. Best thing you can do is close and ignore the pop-ups and periodically run that virus scan. In terms of phishing scams, so if you think about phishing, it's a PH, but what they're trying to do is they're trying to cast out a line or a net and trick you into scooping. They're trying to scoop up as much personal information as they can. Bank account numbers, passwords, credit card numbers. It might be through emails, it might be through messages on social, WhatsApp, chat apps, text messages. The message normally seem like they're encouraging. There's a competition, or there's asking you for your details to verify we've got all your details, you have won, anything like this. Cadbury's are not giving away 400 Easter eggs. No camper van manufacturer is giving away 10 camper vans. These things are just too good to be true, so they probably are. They're trying to get you to greed or fear hand over those details. This was a typical scam that's still running around the COVID-19. I've seen people, it was with my sister-in-law, and she said, oh no, I've just been pinged a text message saying I've been in contact with somebody with COVID. And I was like, well, hold on. How have they got your number? Where's it come from? What's the link it's trying to take you to? And when we looked into it, it was not anything to do with it. It was just a scammer sending out loads of messages, because what they wanted to do was get her to click on a link, fill in her details, and then obviously then those details have been phished. So if you receive any text like this, things you can do here. Even here, if it says www.gov.uk/coronavirus, this takes you actually to a scam page, because they've masked the website that they're going to. All right. It's basically trying to scam you. Don't call the number. Don't click on the website. If you are worried, go to a separate device, find the right pages on the government website or the NHS website, and get in touch with them yourself. And I'm sure you'll find it is a scam. You get a lot of these fraudulent emails, PayPal, Amazon, big companies that they think, well, most people have got these things, so that's what they're going to be doing. They'll claim you owe money, that you've won a prize, or sometimes ask for your help in moving money around, okay? They're designed to look like legitimate messages. They steal the logo, rip the logo off a genuine site and put it on the email. They tell you that there's a problem and they ask you for more information. Don't click the link, delete the email. These things are not, they're asking you to put your details into a fake website most of the time if you click through these links. If you want to know whether it's real, different device, sign into PayPal yourself. If there was something from PayPal or Amazon that needed your help, there'd be a notification. Top right-hand side, notifications, messages, account status, anything like that. You're going to be able to click on those and see whether there really was a problem with your account, okay? An email is not the only way they're going to try and contact you. And lots of HMRC scams as well, coming in through text messages, coming in through WhatsApp. Invoices telling you've purchased something from the App Store for a tiny amount. And you go, oh, I haven't bought anything. I must have been hacked. I'm going to click on it, because you think you get into that fear mode. Yeah. There again, here we are. Don't click on the website. This, hmrc.gov. The website is actually going to is login1-uk.com. That's not the real government website, all right? There again, don't click on any links from HMRC. Go in separately to your account and see whether you are due that refund, all right? to try and cut those things down wherever you can. Try not to give your mobile phone number out so much. Try and keep your numbers off your social media profiles. Don't have, if you have a small business, don't have your own mobile number on your website. Try and keep those details as protected as you can. And we get these, this is a couple of emails that look like they're both from Amazon. This one is telling you that you've purchased something. Oh, I haven't purchased it. I didn't do this. Click on it. Some of these links will take you genuinely to the right places because they make them look as real as possible. But when you check, for instance, the address of the sender here, let's see if I can do this, support-user@amazon.co.uk, it's actually from crose@one.iu.edu. That is not coming from Amazon themselves, even though they've masked the email address to make it look like it does. All right. So here we are. This is the real one. And here's the fake one. But they look very, very similar. All right. Check the email address of the sender. And if you're not sure, go directly into the website to see if there is really a purchase that you don't know about. Other things to check. So here we are. We've checking the email address. Some of these links might be real to try and gain your trust. And it will be saying that the parcel is being sent to somebody else's email address. It is trying to get you to enter your Amazon password. All right, that's what it's trying to do, because once it has your Amazon password and it's got your email address, it will be then able to, order real things, as in make fake orders. We're getting them through messaging apps. Something's too good to be true. Sainsbury's aren't giving away gift cards. Nobody's giving away camper vans. If you use WhatsApp and it comes from a friend, I'm the one in the WhatsApp group, the parents group for school. I'm the one going, please don't send this. It's probably a scam. When people forward on these too good to be true things. Okay. It's trying to trick you into distributing it to your friends so that not only are they potentially getting your details, they're potentially scamming it out across the world. And here's a fun thing. I'm going to ask Sarah to pop this into the chat. If you do the phishing quiz with Google, it's a fun, quick way to test your knowledge. 10 questions. Take a look and see what you think. And then we've started to touch on about this a little bit on social media scams. We've talked about WhatsApp scams. You might see a couple of things that people do a lot on social media. They run ads for things that are too good to be true in the order that you're going to click on them, and they're going to get your details. Also, you get fake friend requests from people who you're already friends with. This normally means that they've had their images taken and that somebody's trying to reconnect with all their people in order to get into their network. So if it's a cloned account, the first thing I would do was get in contact with that person in the real world. Don't just join in with them, get in contact with them, see if they've really been locked out of their account or whether it is just that's a thing. All righty, definitely no time for questions, because I just want to very quickly take you through what to do, how to gain back control if you have been scammed. Risk-wise, if you get lots of scam emails or you've opened a scam email, it's a very low risk. Just try and, start blocking those. If you get lots of scam emails every day, block them, report them, mark them as spam. It helps your system to learn, all right? Just opening one isn't enough to install that virus, okay? If you've replied to it or clicked a link, then we're at a bit more risk. So it can install the virus on your device or make you start seeing lots of pop-up messages and things. Best thing to do is to run a full scan with your antivirus software and do whatever that tells you. But if you type your password or financial details into a scam site, you need to act fast, okay? So you've gave over your details, or you've downloaded a file. First thing to do, disconnect the internet. All right, so it can't do anymore. What's really important, though, then, is to run a full scan. All right, and change your passwords. If you think if you have even the slightest worry that bank details have been given away, phone the bank. Phone the bank from the number on the back of the card. They have fraud departments there to help you with this. It's happened to me. I was worried my card had been cloned. I rang them at 11:30 at night. When I realized what had happened, I used the number on the back of the card. There were real people there to help me. And within 20 minutes of realizing the card was gone, or that realizing the account had been potentially compromised, the cards were shut down. All right. So don't panic, but act quickly. So contact your banks, change any passwords. Think about, if it was your email, changing your email passwords. If you start getting dodgy messages, second factor authentication messages coming through saying, are you trying to sign into this? Are you trying to sign into this? Surefire that you need to go back to the original account and make sure you've changed those passwords. Anywhere where you might have your credit card information stored, be super, super careful about, but do make sure that you are acting quickly if this happens to you. If it happens to you, and it happens to so many of us, don't feel embarrassed about it, because it happens to, as I say, all the best of us. Report it to Action Fraud. They'll give you a crime reference number, which is going to help you, but it's also it's going to help you to make a claim. It's also going to help them to track what's going on with scams out there, because the police can only keep on top of scams if people report them. Don't think you're wasting their time. Action Fraud has been set up specifically to deal with this, what is a huge potential issue. And of course, we've got our experts at Which, who can, help you stay one step ahead. I'm going Sarah to pop a bunch of links in about scams and about advice from Which, really useful to have. So head to which.co.uk/scam alerts. Hopefully less relevant going forward, but for those COVID-19 scams, head to g.co/COVID security tips. I'm really sorry we've run out of time to have questions, but what I'd love it if you could do is pop in to the chat what you're going to do next. Is there something that this has reminded you to do? Run that antivirus, check out those privacy settings on your social media, take a positive action in the next few hours to make sure that you're keeping your security up to date. Other than that, thank you so much for your time today. It's been my pleasure to take you through this guide from Which and Google Digital Garage, all about helping you to protect yourself online. I hope it's left you feeling confident and not at all freaked out. We're running lots more Google Digital Garage webinars in different subjects. So if you want to carry on your learning, head over to our website to find more. Other than that, thanks to Sav behind the scenes, and thanks to Sarah, who's our amazing moderator today. We both look forward to welcoming you back to another Google Digital Garage training session sometime soon. And I hope you have a lovely day.